Do men need to check their privilege? Gender activists tell us that men carry around with them an invisible knapsack of advantage. Well, is that true? And is it the whole story? Let's check the facts. Coming up next on The Factual Feminist. Now, if you are willing to cherry pick, stretch the truth a bit, suppress counter-evidence, you can easily make it seem like women are the have-nots in our society. You point to the wage gap, the glass ceiling. You focus on women's vulnerability to body shaming, sexual objectification, manspreading, street harassment, intimate partner violence, and before long, you will have constructed a full-scale patriarchy. And we have hundreds of women's groups who do just that. They specialize in persuading us that Venus is victimized and Mars is privileged. Well, here's the problem. Women's advocacy groups tend to exaggerate the plight of Venus and ignore the troubles of Mars. And as I've tried to show in earlier segments of this series, most of the standard feminist injustice statistics are exaggerated or just plain wrong. It's not true that women are being cheated out of 23% of their salaries, or that 1 in 5 will be victims of sexual assault. And it's also the case that in many critical domains, women are faring far better than men. Let's consider a few. Take education. There, it is women who are the privileged sex. At every level of education, from preschool to graduate school, and across ethnic and class lines, women get better grades, they win most of the honors and prizes, and they're far more likely to go to college. Today, women earn a majority of bachelor's degrees and advanced degrees. Our schools do a much better job educating women than men. Now look at the workplace. Women's groups focus a lot of attention on people at the pinnacle of achievement, CEOs of Fortune 500 corporations, or tenured physics professors at MIT, or U.S. senators. And they're right, there are too few women. But what happens when you consider the entire workforce? There may be a few women, but the lethal professions are largely a male preserve. And as my favorite dissident feminist, Camille Paglia, has noted, quote, "It is overwhelmingly men who do the dirty, dangerous work of building roads, pouring concrete, laying bricks, tarring roofs, hanging electric wires, excavating natural gas and sewage lines, cutting and clearing trees, and bulldozing." Well, is it any surprise that the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that every year about 5,000 Americans die in workplace accidents? 92% of them men. Now, we hear all about the Fortune 500 CEOs, but what about the unfortunate 46? Now, alongside male salaries, perhaps some mention should be made of male sacrifice. Now, whenever distressed gender warriors draw up lists of male advantages, they almost always mention men's freedom from fear of being attacked. Now, it's true that women are much more likely to be victims of rape and sexual assault, but men are more likely to be victims of violent crime as a whole. And consider campus crime. It's actually men who need safe spaces more than women, because according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, men are twice as likely to be victims of violent crime on campus. Look at the overall murder rate in our society. 12,000 murder victims in 2013, 78% were men. And even on the internet, men face as much or more bullying than women. According to the Pew Research Center, more women than men are sexually harassed, but men are the primary targets of threats. And here are some more facts that challenge the male privilege mantra. Suicide, 78% male. Incarceration, 93% of federal inmates are male. And even when men and women commit the same crime and have similar criminal histories, men receive 63% longer prison sentences on average. Homelessness, it's estimated that about 60% of homeless individuals are male. Combat, 85% of active duty soldiers are men. And though there are many women serving in the armed services, fewer than 8% profess a desire to engage in combat. If you visit a veterans hospital or a rehabilitation center, male privilege is not the first idea that will come to your mind. And now for the mother of all gender gaps, life expectancy. Women's average life expectancy is nearly 5 years longer than men's. Men have to be the only oppressor class in history who are less educated, more victimized, and have shorter lives than those they oppress. They must be the only oppressor class who have claimed society's gritty, dangerous jobs as their exclusive preserve. Well, the factual feminist verdict: modern life is a complicated mix of burdens and benefits for each sex. Men and women enjoy distinctive advantages and face distinctive challenges. So if men have to check their privilege, then so do women. But why play this game? Why do so many activists want to promote gender resentment and divisiveness? Men and women are not two opposing teams competing for some trophy. We are in this together. Our fates are intimately connected. And as one wit has observed, nobody will ever win the battle of the sexes. Too much fraternizing with the enemy. Well, my advice: let's dispense with the bitter rhetoric about male privilege and get on with the fraternizing, or sororitizing, as I prefer to say. Well, do you think one sex is more privileged than the other, or do you agree that it's a complicated mix? Let me know in the comments section, and I invite you to subscribe to the series, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, and remember, before you tell a man to check his privilege, check your facts. Thank you for watching The Factual Feminist.
I love my female privilege. It begins at birth. If my parents don't find my genitals aesthetically pleasing, they're not allowed to cut them. And if I get a urinary tract infection, I get treated with antibiotics, not a knife. If my parents' religious or tribal customs prefer my genitals to be mutilated during infancy, that doesn't matter. They're not allowed to do it. That's illegal, and you'll go to jail. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege. When I'm an infant, my parents are more likely to respond to cries from me that indicate that I'm hungry, tired, sleepy, afraid, anything, with loving care. I get treated with kindness and gentleness from birth. I'm taught that if I ask for help, help will come. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege. When I go to school, I'm going to be taught by teachers of mostly my own gender, and I'll be taught subjects that interest me in a way that reflects my skills, my preferences, and the things that I'm good at. And if you're a little boy who survives that education without being drugged, it doesn't matter. The teachers of my gender will mark you harder, making it easier for me to succeed. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege that I can go to college campuses where I'm the majority, provided I take retarded subjects like film theory, women's studies, dance therapy, or pottery. If I go into STEM, well, then I'm a minority, and I'm oppressed, and you're the oppressor. And we have to fix it by making sure I have more and better opportunities than you in college. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege, and that any sex I have on a college campus, I can define as rape for any reason I want at any time. I don't even have to have sex to call it rape. I can just make the whole thing up and destroy fraternities and sports teams on my word alone. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege that even if I go to college and get an idiot degree, I get to choose whether or not I want to go to work. I can always get married. And of course I'll say to you at the beginning of our marriage, of course I'm going to work, but I don't have to. I can choose not to. And I probably won't. Or at least I'll only work part-time. I like work-family balance. You know, who doesn't? You have to accept my decision, because what are you going to do? Divorce me? I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that if you do decide to divorce me, I get to keep the house, everything in it. I'll get custody of the kids, And I get to keep a lot of your money too. You'll have to pay me every month. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that I don't have to share custody. No one thinks that moms and dads are equally valuable. Ha! They're not, obviously. I love that I can stand up and demand equality, and I don't actually have to deliver equality myself. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege that even if you're one of those rare specimens who actually does get custody of children, I don't have to observe those orders. No one's going to enforce them. I can keep your kids from you for years on end, and there's nothing you can do about it. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that even if I do decide to go to work, I can take more time off, work fewer hours at a less demanding job, and certainly not a dangerous or dirty one. And then I can say that you make more money than me, and that's not fair. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that choosing to have children is completely my choice. You don't get a choice. I can choose to have an abortion, and you can't, obviously. But even if I do give birth to a child and I don't feel like supporting that, I don't feel like interrupting my school schedule, I don't feel like interrupting my party schedule, it's just too much work. No one's going to force me to pay for or parent that baby if I don't want it. In every state, I'm allowed to simply surrender children I don't want and walk away. I don't even have to give my name. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that if I get sick, my health care is well funded, often by the state. I love the fact that if I get cancer, I have more than double the funding of men's cancers. I love that if my health problems are mental health and I simply scratch myself on the wrist, I will be flooded with attention. I will have counselors. I will have all the drugs. And I will be able to say that women attempt suicide more than men, and therefore, we're the ones who suffer. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege. I get to vote and choose leaders without getting drafted. I get to access state and federal programs without agreeing to die. And even if you did try to draft me, I would vote for the first politician who said that women can't be drafted, because drafting women is silly. You can't do that. We're special. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege in that even if I fall off the rails and just go wild, girls gone wild. If I steal a few cars, rob a few convenience stores, do some drugs, whatever, any manner of bad things, I'm much less likely to be charged with a crime, much less likely to be convicted of a crime, and even if I am convicted, I'm going to spend less time in jail than a man for the same crime. I love that I can point to crime statistics and say, you see, men are the ones who do all the crime. Look at the conviction rates. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege the most because you can't win a fight with me. If I hit you first, and 70% of unidirectional violence is women hitting men, if I hit you and you hit me back, you're a bully. You're not even a real man, and you're going to jail. It's called the Violence Against Women Act. I'll have you arrested for domestic violence, even though I hit you first. You can't win. And if I hit you first and you don't hit me back, you're a pussy who got beat up by a girl. There's no domestic violence shelters, no resources available for you because man up. I love my female privilege. I love my female privilege because whatever I do is right. I can't be held accountable for anything. I'm sugar and spice and everything nice. I love my female privilege.